Hi there, guys. So we have a story in The Guardian today talking about foster care provision in England. So before I get into the story, I'd be extremely grateful if you could subscribe to the channel for daily analysis of politics and the economy. And please do like the video if you find what I talk about interesting at all. So the story today is suggesting that nearly a quarter of foster places in England are provided by private equity-backed firms. So let's have a look at the story then. So experts have raised alarm over the commodification of vulnerable foster children, as analysis reveals almost a quarter of all foster places in England are now provided by private equity-backed companies making millions of pounds in profit. Analysis for The Guardian by think tank Commonwealth found independent fostering agencies, so IFAs, are making millions via public funding from councils to provide placements for foster children, while foster carers struggle to pay bills. New analysis has shown that the largest four independent fostering agencies are all private equity backed and now provide almost a quarter of all fostering places in England, managing about 16,500 places. So in 2023, the parent company of the UK's biggest provider, National Fostering Group, made earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortisation profit of £104 million, and that was with a profit margin of 21%. Costs for fostering placements are significantly higher through IFAs, a Competition and Markets Authority report found. Operating costs per child were £8,400 higher with IFAs than with councils in 2020. Robin Findlay, founder of the Foster Carers Trade Union, said little of what is paid to IFAs actually reaches foster carers. Say a foster carer is meant to get £150 for themselves and £150 for the child, so £300 total. The agency might be charging the local authority £1,000 a week for that same placement. The rest, £700, goes to cover their social workers, fuel, light bills, office costs, directors. So the more they can cut costs, the more profit they can make. And Finlay said the underlying problem is structural. So you've got to ask, why do these agencies exist? They exist because local authorities have failed. They can't run fostering properly, so they outsource it. So what does this issue tell us then about the UK in 2025? In terms of the foster care system, it's obviously a system that's totally broken, isn't it? What they've described there is ridiculous. And to think that these are vulnerable children, children who need a lot of support, and they're just being used as cash cows essentially by these private equity firms. So it's quite disgusting in many ways. I wanted to talk a bit more widely about this issue because this is not just a foster care issue. This financial model that we've looked at in this story, this is replicated across all of our public services in the UK. So adult social care, trains, water, gas, electric, even things like our prison system and the education system. There is now a middleman between the state and the end user. And that middleman is siphoning off large amounts of money while offering only the same, or in most cases worse, service than what the state previously provided. So this story goes to the heart of what Gary Stevenson talks about when he speaks about inequality. The foster care crisis that's being described here in this story, it encapsulates his thesis absolutely perfectly. Because on either side of the large corporation in the middle, you've got ordinary people. So in this case, you've got foster carers on one side, and then you've got the state, in this case, the local authority, on the other. And both the foster carer and the state in this example, they're living off scraps, while the middleman, the private equity fund or the hedge fund, they're making obscene profits for their directors and shareholders. And it also encapsulates then perfectly why all our services in this country are so crap and so expensive. And then it also encapsulates why rich people are getting richer and poor people are getting poorer in this country. So to put it bluntly, and to bring all that together, outsourcing and privatisation have decimated large parts of our economy. We all just now have to live in the rubble of this economic model that we've developed. And the worst part, I think, is that the people in power, they don't even recognise that this is an issue, and they certainly don't have plans in place to tackle it for that reason. So that goes to the heart of why, Rachel Reeves is scratching around for £5 billion here, £5 billion there, because there's no money in central or local government, because it's all being siphoned off to these private equity funds. So the whole system is broken, like every single aspect of it. And in terms of finishing on a bit of a positive note, our only response as ordinary people is to get behind whatever sort of political project exists out there that promises to roll back on this privatisation and outsourcing, and which promises a fairer deal for ordinary people. Maybe currently in this country, maybe the Greens are the best bet on that front. So we urgently need action on this, and we need it yesterday. So we have to do whatever we can as individuals and collectively to try and tackle this issue. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time.